I've got the Message. It says the earth does it all without his help.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and NIV says all by itself, right, I think? Yeah, which I like that. The soil produces crops all by itself. Now we know he doesn't mean that, because soil without seed in it doesn't produce anything. What he means is the soil in conjunction, in symbiotic relationship with the seed, that goes without saying, but I'm saying it anyway. Okay? What he means is the soil, with the seed in it, of course, the soil produces a crop all by itself. I find that phrase, I'm going to stop right there, we could go on, but I'm reading, that's the point. I find that phrase very, very interesting. Because Jesus says the soil, now, in this parable, what is the soil? Hearts, yes, hearts, and bigger than that, the whole cosmos, the whole creation, the world, if you will. The kingdom is implanted in the world. Now, the dynamic, interactive, is our hearts, and there's no question. That's the key location. But it's, as we've said so many times, Jesus didn't die to save our hearts. Jesus died to redeem everything. And we're the lucky, we just are lucky enough to be on that escalator. I'm going to change that image in just a minute, because we're not just on the escalator. But I find this interesting that Jesus hints in this passage that there's something in the soil itself that when it comes in contact with the seed, or when the seed comes in contact with it, kaboom, something happens. I think that's true. Now let me back up and explain a little bit what I mean. And how far back to go. I know we're going to go back to the beginning, but how far to the beginning?
Going back to creation.
Yeah, we're definitely going back to creation. When God created, and by the way, I know you all know this, but we have no idea how we created. And we love Genesis 1, 2, and 3 because it's full of truth. In fact, a good Jewish atheist asked me a couple years ago, do you believe literally in Genesis 1, 2, and 3? Now, there was a time I would have said yes, and felt like I was defending the faith. My answer now is, no, it goes way beyond literal. It goes way beyond literal. There's truth in these stories. And that's the way I take these stories now. Now, I don't have any trouble imagining that it was literal. And no, yeah, of course. That's not like a position of faith for me. It's like, of course, God could have done it that way. Absolutely could have. I'm not sure that the text absolutely demands that we interpret it that way, but be that as it may, it doesn't matter. If you want to, great, I'm all for it. Yay, go for you. But what really thrills me is the truth that is in these stories. Okay? So are you okay with that? Literal? Yeah, maybe, but that's not what floats my boat theologically. What floats my boat is the insight. Here's one of them. When God created everything, and I think we've done this before, but if you were to ask the question, or if someone asked you, was everything perfect? Well, the most obvious, and you're used to me now, you know it's a trick question, but the most obvious question is, well, of course, yes, right? Because there's no what? No sin. Yeah, so if there's no sin, then it's perfect. God created a perfect cosmos. Well, and again, you know it's a trick question, so I'm going to say, well, depends on your definition of perfect, and let's work that out just a little bit. In fact, the word perfect, I'm trying to remember if it's a Greek root or Latin. I don't remember. Go home and Google it. Google it right here. You can do that, Stephen. Google it right now. Look up. I don't remember if it's Greek or Latin, but in any case, the word perfect has within it, somebody, your name, would you throw that in the trash, please, behind you? The word perfect has insinuated or the connotation within it of being complete. Now, I do know that in the New Testament, this is clearly the case, so it's probably a Greek root. Whenever we read our word perfect in the New Testament, You could almost substitute the word complete to get a better translation. Now, if that was really true, I think all the translators would have done that. So maybe that's a slight exaggeration. But you should always have in the back of your mind, complete. I won't start giving examples of the New Testament, although several come to mind. So now let me ask, with that insight, let me ask the question the same way. When God created the heavens and the earth, the whole cosmos, sun spinning, the earth, galaxies, trees, birds, flowers, you name it, water, was it perfect? And the answer would be no. It was not perfect because it was not what? It was not complete. It was a work in progress. Now, here's a couple little proofs, if you will, from the Adam and Eve story. First of all, God created everything, no sin, but not complete, because then somewhere, and I'm not going to bother reading it, you know the story. Somewhere he said he took the man and prepared a garden for him. At least that's the word that I remember, prepared. Is there another translation? Is that one good enough for you? Do you remember the verse that says God prepared, fixed up a place? So there you go. If the world was perfect, how could you fix it up? Fair question? So it was not perfect. It was raw material. But God, in this story, he said he took a part of the perfect world and made it more perfect. So he fixed it.
Couldn't he have rearranged it?
Yes, definitely. Rearranged.
Not a new creation.
No, right. Not a new creation, but and if you want to get real technical about it, he created a level of order in the cosmos, and then he took a little piece of it and created higher order. Does that make sense? And what that means, I don't know. It's fun to think about. It's not hard to imagine. Rearrange is definitely the issue, Gary. God created perfect, but he prepared a garden. Maybe he took a row of rocks, and where there's rocks scattered all over, he said, let's make a row. Right? And where there's just bushes and trees everywhere, he said, let's make an open area and remove some trees and put some bushes and so on and so forth here. By the way, there's all kinds of insight in the story. I love the story because it's like, man, there's gold in Dunbar Hills. There's all kinds of insight. For instance, we're told that Adam and Eve were naked and unashamed. They were naked, but they were never Wild Child. They were never Blue Lagoon, which is a movie I've never seen, but I remember the previews from when I was a kid. And I'm not going to watch that movie. If God gives you grace to watch it, you go for it, buddy. I wonder about you. But anyway, never mind. I'll judge you in my heart. But I'm kidding. But I'm not going to watch. But I know the thesis. It's like, it's the sexual idyllic, two naked, beautiful people, but it was never that, because Adam and Eve, though they were unclothed, they were never undomiciled. They were never in the wild, because God prepared a home for them. And we don't know what the home was. We don't know if he made bowers and branches. We don't know. He could have built a castle for them with, stone and glass, and because it's all stuff of the earth. I'm being a little silly, but just to push our imagination a little bit beyond where it normally goes. Okay, so they were not little naked babies running around through the jungle. Got it? They were domiciled. They had a place. Not only that, God has a perfect world. I'm using the word in the loose sense or wrong sense. God had a perfect world, then he made one part of it more perfect, right? Then he put Adam and Eve, or Adam to start with, but then Adam with his partner Eve, and he put them in the garden. What did he tell them to do? Fix it. Take care of it, right? So there you go. If it was perfect, it didn't need taking care of. But it wasn't that imperfect. It wasn't perfect in that sense of the word. You get it? Where I'm going with this is that when God created the cosmos, and that's my word for everything, the universe, it was a work in progress. It had a trajectory. It had a destiny. It had a direction. And we see that indicated in that first story. God created everything, but then he fixed up a part. That's an indicator of a trajectory. Then he put Adam and Eve in that fixed up part and said, now, you guys